How are you guys?
Good.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Of course. So cool. I'd love for you guys to introduce yourself and tell me a little, maybe one line on you.
Great. Charles Cole, founder of Energy Converters, works in education, basically helping Black kids navigate and get through and make education work for them.
Awesome. What age group?
High school.
High school. Awesome. Hi.
Hi, I'm Sequoia. I'm tech editor for Black Enterprise. I also have a startup called 7 a.m., which is a personal development education platform that keeps you accountable and guided by pop culture.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
Lamar Wilson, career hustler. Yeah, I mean, we have a startup called Hydro that basically has created a DLT or distributed ledger technology platform for trade assets, so invoices, receivables and payables. So,
How long have you been doing that?
2 years.
Very nice. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, Lake Taylor, co-founder with him with Hydro. We've been working together for the past 8 to 9 years, hustling, building.
Just partners in crime, huh?
Yeah, always.
On everything.
Yeah, always. So we build mobile. We used to do mobile development before we got into the blockchain space, and then now we're just focused on financial technologies.
I love it. Real pleasure.
Ruben Harris, co-founder of Breaking the Startup. So it's a podcast that helps people from non-traditional backgrounds break into tech, and then career GPS for them as well. Before that, I was at Honor Middle School, which are education and healthcare technology companies, investment banker, and I've been in Chalice for 25 years.
I love it.
Doing Cliff Worley from Oakland, California. Have an Instagram course that teaches people how to provide value through Instagram, so I like what you're doing.
Thank you.
Also used to run social media for Damon Johns at Shark Tank for the past 4 years. Now have a Facebook chatbot messenger platform for businesses to build chatbots on.
Love it. Real pleasure.
So Gary, Mike Brown, former NFL player, now self-taught coder in the Valley, building Win-Win. It's a sports gaming platform that bridges the gap between fans and their favorite athletes and influencers while raising money for charity. And so we've launched and just finished up 500 startups and looking to continue to accelerate. Pleasure to be here.
Real pleasure. Thanks for being here.
Hey, I'm Allie. I lead community at Workbench, which is an enterprise-focused fund here in New York City.
Awesome. Real pleasure.
Get out
What's going on, Gary? I'm Thomas. I'm the creator of Date While You Wait. What I do essentially is sit in the subway, play board games with people, and focus on connection. For the last 2 years, I've moved from creating something that was just something fun into a business and creating human connection around the world.
I love that. How is it a business? What kind of sense is it a business?
Yeah, so I've been doing public speaking. I've been doing events. So a lot of our events are focused on like panel discussions with a board game twist, which is really cool. So we have a lot of our Q&A through board games.
Is it like literally you just love board games, or is it like serendipitous? Is that?
I just love connection, but it went from connection to Connect 4. So.
That's cool.
Hi, my name is Mohjal Tajani, and I run Natural Club. So imagine you're going down the beauty aisle and you see a little refrigerator that has beauty products. That says so natural you have to refrigerate it. We feel at Natural Club, we believe that the future of beauty is through food technology, through food science. And right now we have our first line of products, which is the fresh avocado hair masks that are refrigerated. Yeah.
It's so interesting. Have you looked at what happened in the pet space?
No.
Pet food? You should look at it. It's a real comp. Like the entire pet food space got innovated on in fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just completely changed everything there, and I could see it. That's super interesting. That's cool. Awesome.
Awesome. Terry Opong. Currently, I'm working as a consultant for TED Global, helping plan their conference in Arusha, Tanzania. Outside of that, I'm innovating and looking to disrupt travel to West Africa, starting in Ghana. So I connect curious travelers to a world of adventure in Accra.
I'm going to Ghana next week.
Yeah.
Accra?
We should talk.
Yeah, we should definitely talk. Yeah, I'm on the board of Pencils of Promise.
Oh, okay.
So
Really?
We'll go
That's
through.
a small world, man.
Yeah,
Oh, man, I was trying to get, I was supposed to donate, but I didn't. I'm just gonna be honest.
You just had that founder here. Listen,
I forgot.
No worries, respect. I get it. Yeah, Adam Braun.
Yeah.
He just started Mission U.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm super thrilled you guys are here. Thank you so much. I'm so glad. I'm so sorry. I know we had a schedule once, so I super apologize. That was not good. But I'm glad we're here. And, I'd love to jam. I'd love to, I assume that you guys have some level of context. And at the end of the day, the only thing that's running through my mind is like, what can I answer, what can I give, what connection can I make? So I'd love to just kind of like shoot the shit a little bit. Anybody want to start? Ladies?
Yeah, sure, I'll
Go ahead,
start.
Please.
Okay, so for me,
Yeah.
very interested of the concept of Budasia, of seeing things that are familiar but looking at it in a different lens. And I'm trying to.
Which is a challenge, right?
It's such a challenge.
Because the brain says that's an avocado.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, not I need to put that on my face instead of, through my face, right? Okay.
And through that, it's like education of understanding what the avocado does. But for me, I have a small team now. There's 4 of us. And I'm always I want to challenge them to think things in a different lens. So I was interested in learning how you get your team to see things in a different way.
I think that's a great question. So a couple things. Number one, I'm a much bigger buyer of hiring people that bring that in the first place and making them watch what I do versus what I say, because I historically believe that works. But it's interesting, like Maribel can tell you, like we had a pretty successful, I think, offsite with the entire creative leadership team in this company, 70 people deep, because the company is very far away from what I am in a lot of its manifestation. Now, there's a lot of variables. There's the clients, things of that nature. But in the pillar of 3, which is, do they come with the DNA? Can you tell them to think differently, or can you act differently and they pick it up through osmosis, right? Hey, my man.
How are you doing? How you doing?
Gary.
How's it? Dave.
Dave,
Pleasure.
It's fine, you see. Oh, right there, Dave. Maribel will tell you. Maribel, how long have you been on my team now?
3 years.
Right, so, it's not like we're spending that much time together, I think that, in a weird way, I think she can answer it better. I think I like letting them watch and pick up, and then I watch them and, and then say, okay, hey, you picked up that, have you thought about this or this and that? So I never think it's too early to assess a team, even at 4 people. And it's real emotional at 4. Some of them, they from day one, like all that stuff. And like sometimes you're serendipitously lucky and you find your partner in crime and you roll. It's a really interesting, you guys were talking. I just had a guy by the name of Eric Kastner in my office. Eric Kastner was my first developer at Wine Library. Literally, we sat this close together. And it was so emotional, like for me, even like 7 years, day in, day out like this. I didn't travel back then. And then I haven't talked to him for 6 or 7 years. And I reached out to him the other day, random, and said, hey, I want you to come and be my personal developer for my chatbot, for my Alexa skills, for all the stuff that I want to go on the tech offense, because I got everything on the content down, but I don't have that tech partner right now. And, we finish each other's sentences, right? When it's early, it's emotional. But I would tell you the hardest thing about running an organization is doing the things that are unpopular, that are right. And I think that's probably the thing you've learned the most, right? Like how many things seem right on paper, but they're just layered, right? Like, it's hard. But I would tell you, for me, I see 3 things that get it done. Picking people that know how to get it done from the get. Them watching how much you actually mean it, and then you doing things in the way that you manage them or the things that you do. And then number 3, you tell them. I'm not a big fan of number 3. I'm a big believer in DNA. I'm a big believer in not pandering to what's convenient. And so, if you take anything from that, it's gonna make you inevitably audit the 4 of them, and, all of a sudden, 1.5 of them are vulnerable, right?
Okay, thank you.
And then the other thing is, if you take the opposite approach, I'd go on a hardcore blitz on really, I would take a step back, slow down your role, and spend 30 days just pounding it into them, and then watching the next 30 days, because in 60 days, if you gave your all to being like, listen, Charles, this is what I want, this is what I want. If you do that, if you put all your time into that for 30 days, and then watch them for 30 days, at 60 or 90 days, you're gonna have a real read and be like, look, I did everything I could. And like, Thomas is just not, he's just playing it a different way, or this is what he believes in, or. Because I think what a lot of people do is they have ideological points of view on things. And that's just not reality.
Yep. Quick question for you, piggybacking off of what she said.
Yep.
So, did you have any growing pains scaling your business?
Sure. I think one thing, and again, varying on how much you guys know about me, I'm really bad at paying attention to the negative parts of things. Of course, every day.
Right.
Like, I just flew from Romania today, right? I was in Bucharest a little bit ago. And on the flight, when I landed, I had to have a very tough conversation with Unilever. And when I tell you I hate confrontation, I hate confrontation. I hate negativity. And so, literally, I was anxious for like 11 hours on this flight. You know, like seriously, really anxious. And so, you know, it answers your question like every day. But I think you can dwell on that or you can look past it, right? Like in a sports analogy, it's like next play up, right? Like that last play was terrible, but like you have no choice. I talk about it a lot. You know, I talk a lot about in social issues. Like you just have no choice. The market is the market, and then it becomes binary on how you decide to look at it. You either decide it's a positive or a negative, and it's so easy to pick it to be a negative. It's so easy to think what you're doing right now is hard, because it is. But that's why. But it should be hard. Like if you decide to go on your own and do something and live life in a way that you're in control of it and you're the boss of your life, it should be harder. It should be harder on me than on Maribel or D-Rock. It should be. It should be. And so I think a lot of people want all the good stuff without the baggage. So yeah, I mean, a lot of things, you know, slow down or are challenges in the process of building my thing. The biggest thing that I struggle with, no question, is cynicism.
Related to his question about scale,
Yeah.
you talk a lot about scaling the unscalable.
Yes,
and all
I do.
Interactions.
Yes.
Are you doing anything related to text messages, related to trying to build those one-on-one interactions?
Yeah, I mean, it's really literally why Eric was in my office today. Like, I think so here's how I think about it. I'm petrified of things that completely automate, but I'm an enormous believer that AI should get me to third and fourth, fifth space, and I should finish it off. And if I go all the way home, then the person on the other end has to know without a shadow of a doubt. Like, I'll create a Gary robot character before I put my face on it if it's completely automated. I think it's about expectations, right? So, but yeah, I mean, I'm being very inefficient in a lot of things that I do right now that I'm willing to be more efficient in, hence my actions, right? Hence why I reached out to that one tech partner in crime I've ever had that was simpatico to me. And what I have with D-Rock, that's what I had with Eric, and I'd like to replicate it. It was so weird. I literally felt like I was in the room with like an ex-girlfriend that I dated for like 2 years. I had the weirdest feelings. It was so, I like caught real feelings. I'm like, this is emotional. Like you just, you know, like you bit right? Like imagine, you said 9 years, you said? 8 or 9? Imagine now going 7 without seeing each other and being in a room together. 9 years from now. It's crazy. It was really weird.
do everything together, man.
So yeah, I'm definitely, I mean, look, I believe AI and that infrastructure and messaging and all, I mean, Alexa, I had an Alexa voice meeting today with our rep from there, like, I'm all about it. Like, the world's gonna get more efficient, but I do believe the magic is in the unscalable. Because if everybody does that, what's the counter? The counter is the effort.
Have you gotten a lot better with, cause I'm one of those guys that sleeps probably about 3 or 4 hours a night, like literally. And I've been doing it for so long just because I taught myself to program and I had to program at night, right?
And it's
so,
such a culture for
and then I had to wake up
programmers.
and take my kids to school, so it's like, it wound up being, cause you have to put so many hours in to learn how to program. So it wound up just being so habitual that now I wake up 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. So has your work-life balance become better now as you become older and wiser? Or, cause I'm that kind of grinder. Like I was at a point where I just like work so much, my son's like, man, leave him there, he lives that, right? And now I think I'm trying to get that balance to where.
I think you ebb and flow. I think life is about ups and downs, lefts and rights, right? Like I think it's like think about yourself right now, and then just even think about yourself 24 months ago. It's just different. When people talk about Vayner, right? They're always like, it's different. I'm like, it's supposed to be different. But to me, it's about intent and soul. Like you're still who you are. You're just different. And that's just the way it is. And so I think that for sure, I also have done a much better job in the last year. The reason I had Ariana Huffington on Ask Gary Vee is I used her, platform of sleep as a spring pad because I started noticing my fans thought it was cool to sleep less. and now look, everybody is different. Like,
Oh, yeah.
some people can really, like, first of all, I think you can train the body to do almost anything. So, like, you can get there 4 hours a day. Like, I just think sleep's super important. I think it's healthy. I'm all about sleep. I'm more focused on what people are doing while they're awake than how much they sleep. You can sleep 10 hours a night. If you're crushing the other 14, I mean, one thing D-Rock and I were once talking about is, I think I actually work in one day what most people actually work in a week. Like, if you really, like, because I'm actually on.
Actually working.
Like, I'm actually working every minute of a 15 or 16 hour day for real right? Like,
I get the emails.
and like it's like one after, like, there's no in between time, there's no commercial break. And I think that what I came to realize is, like, wait a minute, people that work 40 hours a week, hour and a half lunch, some YouTube videos, a little talking with your friend, like, you could probably have a 15-hour, I mean, I think people in my company have 15-hour work weeks. A little less here, but, like, I definitely know, like, friends, people at Wine Library, even people sneak through here, you can have a 15-hour work week. So I think it's, you know.
But do you schedule, like, family time? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, that's,
Yeah.
that's
But
the
I
question.
schedule
Yeah,
it
it's
not at I schedule it at a macro level. So it's weekends, holidays, and vacation time.
That's
Not like, I don't do Tuesday 2 to 4. Anytime I'm home, I'm working, but I will go to every recital, every play if I'm in town. But I won't, I'm willing to miss this month's recital if I'm in Seattle at an Amazon meeting. I'm willing to do that because I'm just willing to do that. I'm okay with that. I don't have to be at every single thing, but I can't also miss everything either.
Balance.
Yeah, just to the best of my ability.
But is there balance, right? Because I'm you know, people.
Balance is subjective.
Yeah.
Balance is subjective.
Yeah.
Who's balanced? You're like
If you love what you do, then everything, like, you
100%.
feel more balanced with that.
And you have to know your partner or the people involved. I think the thing with the kids that's interesting to me is they're getting very real. Like, Misha and Xander are now real. Like, they can say shit. You know? So, like, when Xander's like, don't go, Dad. Misha never did that. Misha was like, cool, like, never said don't go. He does, and that fucking sucks. The first time he threw that at me, like, 18 months ago, I'm like, this is bad. I looked at this and this is bad. I'm like, this is not what I want to hear. Like, you know, it hurts. It hurts. But you hack at it. You do the best you can. You have to also figure yourself out. One thing I realized probably 2 years ago, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm about to become very wealthy. What that means is I can take my kids in a private plane to LA for a business meeting and then sneak in a Disney trip with them and get them back and they miss a day and a half of school. And I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna parent the way I run businesses and the way I live. I'm gonna break shit. Like, I had a real hardcore conversation with my wife. I'm like, look, you have to be ready for Misha next year to miss 6 days of school because I'm gonna go to Bucharest, and instead of going for 10 hours, I may stay an extra day, and she, as a third grader, will actually, I remember a lot of third grade. Now it sounds interesting to me, like, as a kindergartner, but now, A, I can handle it and can take care of a 9-year-old, and B, like, she'll remember, and that's real stuff, you know? So yeah.
I was trying to wait a little bit because I'm in a different space. Like, I'm in more of the nonprofit space.
Yes.
And I want y'all was having some good conversation. So we're trying to build this youth voice platform, and these young folks have said they want to have, like, the youth version of, like, a mix of Huff, Reddit, and TED or whatnot.
Okay.
The work that I've done, the years where I spent a lot of time doing this after I was a social worker was 5 years just getting poor kids in and through college. So over 400 kids in and through college. And I know how you feel about school, but the purpose of this is for them to understand.
Just while we're here, so I can, because it's another thing I'm trying to clarify more, because, you know, you throw things out and it takes a life form. I think entrepreneurship, I think collecting debt, real debt, to go to college for entrepreneurship is extremely not practical.
Right.
I think that if you're good enough to go to Brown or Yale or Harvard, if you got those skills, and you want to work at Bain and McKinsey, you got to go to those schools.
Right.
You don't get to. I couldn't have gone to Bain and McKinsey saying I'm a natural talent. That wasn't the game.
Right.
That wasn't the game. So Yes, do I think if somebody who's wants to be an entrepreneur, collecting debt, if your mom and dad can afford to pay, you should go take that 4-year vacation.
Right. Well, that definitely wasn't the case here. So
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, my parents were like on drugs. Like they got it together, but I went and paid for all my school and working on my doctorate and all that stuff. But what I work with these young folks on is what's the purpose of school for you? Like so school became my hustle, right? It got me out of a place. And so for them, so when we talk about student voice, like I worked in the superintendent's office, now I'm building this thing because school is not mapping to where kids are, especially kids from the hood and what they're trying to do. So young people can actually say, we want like real entrepreneurial experiences, right? So a part of them raising their voice won't just be them talking, it will be documenting their movements and stuff like that, but we're in the Bay, so they get to go see like these other places, these other entrepreneurs, and then they get to bring that stuff back and say, we want a speaker series this week that's going to just focus on this, and I want a mentor in that space. Do you have any advice for, just to connect it to the tech space and building out these platforms? What would be your advice for these young folks that have a lot of energy, they know a lot about their areas, and we're going to be following them home and following them and seeing their experiences in school, and then adults will actually be charged with working on their behalf? Because right now, when we say student voice, we mean taking some kids to a school board meeting, promising them pizza, keeping them up after their bedtime, and then that's children working for adults. I think adults should be working for children. So I'm smart enough that if I get to watch you all day, I get to see where you live, I get to see the environment that you come in, and I get to see your experiences at school. I have money and resources and people that now say, hey, this is actually what these young folks need.
Reverse engineer
Exactly, right? So that's the platform that I'm focusing on building. So I get funding based off the student voice thing, but what it really is it's a navigational tool for these young folks with a lot of energy. And so just getting your thoughts, I've gotten some, I got some decent funding, I got a lot of young folks that's involved, but since I'm here, I might as well, I want to get your advice on that.
Let's synthesize this a little further. I hear you now I understand.
Right.
What can I answer for you? Like, what's the biggest ROI in this question? Like, are you trying to, so I think the thesis is right.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question is, time is, it's really funny. I've been blown away, this Ghana trip, going back to that, you don't realize how much easier it is to throw money at shit than give time.
That's why they donate, by the way.
Right? Like, to make yourself feel good. Right? So as I was sitting there thinking, I was like, man, the time the adults have to do to really audit a kid. Like, think about how much you have to watch to really give a good piece of advice. So keep going. So I guess, I'm
gonna tell you, I can tell you how we're doing it.
Go ahead.
So
no, I guess more or less, what can I help?
You can help. So in 15 seconds, I'll tell you how we're doing it, and you can be like, that's a good way to do it, or no, that's stupid. So the fellowship would be for 15 or 20 kids across the city. There's going to be a stipend, and however they do their voice, whether it's Snapchat, writing, podcast, whatever. But we're going to give a lot. So they're going to put together these speaker series that all students can come to. They're going to do this back to school thing that all parents and students can come to. And then at the end of their fellowship, they don't know. I probably shouldn't say it because I'm taping it. But if their thing was video, this young person is learning and following folks that do video. At the end of their fellowship, on top of their stipend, I'm going to give them the camera. I'm going to give them all that equipment. If theirs was writing, I'm going to give them the laptop and things like that, because so that's the way in which we're trying to do it. There's a fellowship where young people get intensive support and navigational skills, but they're going to be given so much to like hundreds and hundreds of like other young people in the city. That's the model.
The whole thing's super interesting. So I think are you thinking about how you're going to scale it? Are you thinking about how you're going to attract the right personal brands attached to it so you can leverage it? Like, what's next?
I like that question. I guess standing to somebody like you, I'm always interested when I talk to funders and people that I respect is what gets you excited? Like when you heard that, what's a piece of that that's like, oh, I can kind of see that.
For me, the only thing that went through my mind is that got me excited is giving back to the game.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I feel like I owe so much to entrepreneurship that if I can find the time to see a kid that looks like me, right? And when I say looks like me, I mean just has that energy, like a kid that just likes selling shit and just like wants to make something happen and is just hungry. That is what can sucker me in emotionally. It's an emotional thing, right? Like Like, to me, it was really funny. Pencil of Promise, you're right, anti-school. What was interesting was when I synthesized in places like Guatemala, Laos, Ghana, that for me, being in America, entrepreneurship was my way out. Like that the game, that existed, that you could like sell stuff. So for me, it wasn't imposing my way in getting out. It was that, oh, okay, in these places, if you actually can get to second and sixth grade, you know, from big data, we're two big numbers. If you can get to second grade, this happens. If you can get to sixth grade, this happens. By the way, I'm very cynical of big data reports, so it wasn't like I blindly bought into that. I was just like, okay, that's a proxy. Let's accept its truth possibly. It wasn't for me to impose my way out. It sounded like, okay, in that environment, if education was the platform to a much better life, then I wanted to empower a framework. So the thing that comes to me is like, to me, I've been thinking a lot more about depth versus width, right? So for me, taxes. You know, Cuban said something like, I'd much rather write money directly to like 4 families or 19 families, or like, I'd like to know. And I'll be very frank, I was like, you know, there's a lot of baggage with that shit. So like, I don't necessarily know if I've thought it through, if that's a good and or bad idea, but I'd be lying if I didn't tell you it surely sounds a lot more fun. Like to me, actually being able to see the impact, I mean, I'm paying, you know, you start paying real taxes, like those are dollars, you can't even begin.
It's crazy.
You know, like there's some kid that, you know, once in a while I do weird shit, I'm just like paying some kids like debt, like loan, like rent in the Bronx, on Snapchat. Like just got caught up. It's emotion. He's like snapping me he's getting evicted. And he's moving in. I'm like, fuck, we gotta do this. I gotta help you. Like I'm sending Tyler on my PayPal now. Like
someone else.
I think the way to win is to make it, and I love where you're going with document, is going deep, not wide. I can do so much more damage for the world by giving a shit about Ricky or Susan, you know, and like giving my time and energy to those two versus 25K in this, right? Like I'm trying to figure out that time dollar thing, especially now that I realize how much money's in the world. The biggest problem in startup land is there's so much money globally, China, Middle East, you know, like that, like just people are just throwing money at dumb shit. And so impact, I guess what would be really cool is I love that you smartly are letting kids document the way that comes natural to them.
Right.
And then I would say on the other side of the platform, you need to let people like me be able to consume those kids in what works for that person. So if you can synthesize the distribution of the stories to the other side, instead of being romantic about how it should be on a one-to-one basis, all those startup founders, all those things, how do you want to consume it? Do you want a newsletter? Do you want to listen to it in a podcast?
So it's going to be a podcast, and I put something in the budget to get like a predator, like a producer, editor, all that stuff. They're really expensive in the Bay, and they shouldn't be that expensive, but that's how I'm trying to do it. And I'm just learning how to do more to edit it on my own, so I don't have to like depend on coach.
So Gary, I got a question, kind of in line with the whole nonprofit side, right? So I mentioned that Win-Win is a sports gaming platform that allows
the charity component.
Right, and so it connects the fan with the athlete. We basically work directly with athletes. They host game tournaments like the March Madness Challenge, Playoff Pick'em. Fans join the tournament, make a contribution to a charity chosen by the athlete. And now instead of competing for money, they're competing for experiences that money can't
Access.
buy. Right, exactly. So you know, the reason I set out to build this, you know, after finishing with the league was, you know, I wanted something at the intersection of, you know, 3 of my passions, right? Sports, philanthropy, and technology. And so now, and this is kind of like more, I guess, geared towards your involvement, obviously, with Vayner Sports, and how you look at the athlete and, you know, some of the things that they do off the field, right? Because this was my attempt to give them a voice outside of the field and allow their fans to really see them as people and the causes that they actually care about while connecting and engaging with them in a unique way.
I think that's great. I mean, I think first thing I think of, Mike, that I would give you a huge piece of advice. So I assume the platform is for profit for you, right? Sure. You should own that.
Yeah.
Make sure, like, if you leave with anything, like, I was pumped when we were going around, I'm like, I got a really good fucking piece of advice for him. The reason most people lose, straight up, is because they don't own their for-profit nature in their thing. Because they feel like they want to hide from that because the ethos is for-profit. The number one thing I've learned in the nonprofit, for-profit paradigm is that the owner, CEO, the people behind the platform have to own their for-profit nature of it and not hide from it. And not that you have to blast it out of like, I'm built, you know, but if you leave with anything, make sure that you don't hide from that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you know, one of the things from you're very aware of the for-profit side of things.
I want to make sure the consumers, the press, like you just keep that in mind.
Yeah,
Let's
no,
go to
definitely.
the next part. As far as Vayner Sports, you know this way better than I do. I'm just getting into it. Man, I mean, my favorite thing is to disrupt, right?
Yeah.
I like doing that, right? I love doing it in the wine business. I'm single-handedly lowered the price of premium wine in this country. It's a cool thing. It's a very little thing. It doesn't mean that much. But if you're like a high-end wine collector, you really don't even realize how much you should love me because I collapse the floor net.
Yeah.
This has been so fun. We've really disrupting. And the reason we're going to disrupt the agency world is less about how big Vayner will get. It's that Karen and Susan in Tennessee are going to realize they can build an independent agency and never have to sell it. And over time, that's really going to fuck up because all they're playing on is being a holding company and buying out the best talent.
Right.
I'm really going to disrupt the agency sports world in a way that's never been done before because that world's the most fucked up of the three. The level of giving a fuck that these agencies have for their players is zero. It's zero. Now, you have an individual person or two. It's like agencies. There's great people. Maribel was awesome at Group M as a human. The company wasn't because it was built to be a financial arbitrage. I'm sure there's an awesome guy and girl at Rock Nation CAA Athletes First, but the machine's not built for it. My machine's gonna be built for it. So like if my kid cares about nonprofits, I'll push him like crazy to understand this stuff. But if not, I just wanna reverse engineer the kid. You know, I just wanna reverse engineer the kid for real, and I wanna build a model that I wanna teach them that they've got a moment in time. You know this. You know this way better than I do. I know it because if any Jet player DMs me, I'm meeting with him. If he's not on the Jets the next day, I'm not even answering. That's just true. It's very real. So they sit on this 3.5 years, some 1 minute, some 19 years on leverage, and I just want them to maximize it while they have it. And so I just want to do better. The biggest thing we're going to do is bring a lot more money for kids off the field. Like Jalen Reeves-Maven's a 4th round drafted linebacker for the Lions. He's going to make more money off the field than every linebacker in this last class combined.
Wow.
That's going to be disruptive. Because, you know, when we start recruiting next year, we can tell that story. Yeah, people are going to respond to that, right? So, and what that's going to do is going to make people try harder for their guys. Otherwise, they're going to come to me. You know?
But you mentioned that, you know, giving them, so if one of your athletes, right, is really passionate about.
Let me tell you what I'm going to do for you. For example, next year, not this year because we're still small, but next year, we're going to do a 2-day offsite out east in Long Island where I'm going to invite all my guys, and I'm going to create a curriculum for them, and you'll come and present for an hour during that time. Got it? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put them in front of good situations. And by the way, I'm going to vet your thing a little bit from now to then, but I'm going to do that, right? Like I'm going to really try to put them in a good position to be open to new things, think about new things, right? Just expose them to, to me, I have a really good situation there. If I bought CAA, Rock Nation, and Athletes First and combined them, it wouldn't be financially half as interesting as VaynerMedia. So I'm in there to disrupt, learn the industry, build a reputation, take it to when I own the Jets one day. So the smart ones realize the economics aren't that interesting to me. Like, I can't make enough money. And then all of a sudden that builds trust because they realize what I'm trying to do is play a role. Yeah. They don't believe it at first. I got to do the same thing I did with Vayner. It'll take me a couple years, but it's really interesting. I'm really pumped. I thought it was bad and that I was going to disrupt it. Now that I'm in it, it's way worse than I thought. Yeah, I think it's gonna be really cool. And I think, and I'll tell you the interesting thing that I'm trying to figure out. Some of you know this. Through things like Breakfast Club and the up-and-coming hip-hop artists and just my Instagram profile, what's really a lot of pressure on me right now is there's a lot of 15, 16, 17-year-olds in all shades and colors and men and women who entrepreneurship is now on a pedestal. You know, athletes used to want to be rappers, rappers used to want to be athletes. Now both of them want to be entrepreneurs. Right? And so I'm trying to figure out, I'm in this weird spot where I really have a lot of the attention. And so I'm trying to really, I take a lot of responsibility because getting, somebody came to me that was a clothing brand, P-Rock, and I thought it was interesting. Like, getting 17 to 25-year-old dudes to give a fuck about something is actually stunningly hard. I didn't even realize it. So I'm really trying, I think through the athlete thing, I'm gonna have even a greater impact, because if I make great men through that process.
Yeah, and I think your approach of exposing them to different things is what I'm realizing now, because a lot of our early relationships with new players that I know, and now, I'm meeting with the CAAs and the folks like that, and it really takes a hard push from the athlete to say, like, this is what I want to do, and, they don't make money on it, right? Like,
Which is why they have no heart for it.
Right, exactly. So to know
And by the way, any voice in the ear of a player is dangerous to an agent. Because the player has all the leverage. They can fire you the day before the next contract. The other thing is, when I really started digging into it, I'm like, this is a bullshit business. By the way, I feel bad for agents. The whole thing's broken. You do all the right things, and you finally get to the moment where you can actually make your money, and they fire you and go to somebody else. It's not super fun. It's not a great business.
On that point to both of you, so I was a financial advisor in a previous life, and that was one major concern. And how are you planning to deal with that? Because it's just, to your point, it's a fucked up game, but that aspect of things is even worse, right? So,
in terms of what?
Financial advice to players.
Oh, right.
That's honestly not, so I'm staying out of that because it's a conflict with the contract, I believe. What I'm hoping is, through osmosis of a relationship with me, that one, I have to learn it. I have no idea how to judge who's full of shit and who's awesome. Two, I'm hoping that I just genuinely believe when you build self-esteem and you build respect and you you do that, all the decision making gets better.
Can I?
Yeah, go. And go selfish. We can change.
Yeah,
we're gonna change subjects here a lot.
You guys are going next. I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
So my business is a little bit different.
Yeah.
I started something where I literally just in the subway and I did something for fun.
Yeah.
And it ended up
And it took off.
taking off and turning
The
into
best.
something. So now I'm at a point where I'm trying to figure out kind of what steps I should take to
Maximize.
basically monetize connection.
Yeah.
I realize that everybody wants to relate. Relatability is a big part of what I do. If I can find a way to relate with people, people will listen. And that's something that I've learned just through connecting with people. So I'm just trying to figure out what advice should we give as far as someone, I'm a one-man show. I have a couple people I work with here and there, but essentially I speak at universities. I have workshop series I've created, basically just teaching the importance of human connection. And I would, like I said, would love to hear your thoughts.
So look, I think.
Bow Ties, another
Yeah,
company.
that thing's rad. I think it's the same thing I'm trying to figure out with all of you, which is when you know what your finish line is, everything goes much faster. So for example, I know my two finish lines are the vain part of me loves the idea of literally motion pictures being made of me because I pulled it off, right? That I called my shot for 30, 40 years, I documented it. If I can actually pull it off, if you all wake up in 31 years and it's Gary Vaynerchuk bought the Jets, there's a lot you can do with that. That's all-time vain legacy, right? You fucking did it, right? That's absolutely a movie, right? And I want that.
I watch it.
The much more noble part of me is I just want everybody to show up to my funeral, right? And so I've got these two interesting contradictions happening in parallel. I think that I think all of you need to think about your balance between the selfish and the selfless. And I would start with the selfish. And I would start with a macro and micro goal, right? To me, it's really good for you to figure out how much you want to make in money in a year, period. So for me, I knew, and this is funny now to think back, that if I made $100,000 a year, that I was so not into stuff. I don't want stuff. I still don't. I don't really need vacations. I do them now, and I value them much more than I used to, which probably changed my need. But it's crazy to me how little money I needed to be happy. I needed to play. I'm addicted to the game, right? You need to know. When my friends would tell me things like, if I make $1 million, I'm gonna go to, I remember my one friend, Joe Stone, was when we were talking about a startup, he was like, dude, all I wanna do is make enough money so that I can move to Jamaica and smoke weed on the beach. And I was like, cool, what's the math behind that? And the math was nothing. The math was nothing. And I said that it was one of the most profound conversations I had with him. I was like, dude, you really only need to make 377. I remember the number. We fucked with it, right? I'm like, now the tough part comes. How full of shit are you?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So like I think the thing you have to do is like it's cool with all the cameras on. I don't care what you're gonna say about who you wanna be in that. You just need to do that by yourself in your room. So my answer to you is very simple. If you can figure that part out, I've got a lot of advice for you because then I can reverse engineer the finish line.
Gotcha.
I know how to build a personal brand, right? I'll tell you that if you wanna build a huge personal brand, you gotta hold your breath. What I did better than anybody is I held my breath. I didn't monetize my audience. I still don't. Once in a blue moon, 2 years, a $14 book, right? But like, no, this big course, that big course. The second you start selling to them, you start losing leverage.
So I've been hearing the exact opposite. Which
Of
is
course
funny
you
saying
have,
that.
because
and I refuse to do it. That's not
Right.
something that fits me.
Got it. So I think if that's right, then you're in a golden spot. The only issue you have now is your short-term needs as a human to live life
Yeah.
at the level that you want to live it,
Yeah.
and anybody else that comes into your world, right? So, you know, like for example, when I dated Lizzie, like all I talked about was how hungry I was and how much work-life balance would be an issue. Never did I talk about like dollars or this and that. Like you have to figure out who your partners are, how you're gonna roll. You over-communicate, but I will tell you. Of course, everybody's going to give you advice to like create this course, do that thing, do this, because most people are short term. Most people are just short term, and so like, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm pretty envious of it, to be very honest with you, because I just keep pushing it down the road. Like, you know, now if you're talented enough, you can get what I have, which is I think I have the best of both worlds now, right? Like I was good enough in hindsight to be able to get plenty of short term ROI, while still all my leverage, like I'm fully invested in the long term, and it can all go away in one bad move because you're building a brand, right? And you're building on trust, which is hard. And when I run an agency, right, like you're at the mercy. Like there's a lot of things I can't do or talk about or things of that nature. So you know, but I would tell you this: it's content.
Yeah.
It's content.
Okay.
Like there's a reason that when there's a coup in a country, they go after the media. Because the media dictates what people think. And we are at, this is it, man.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
That's true.
It's the
Arab
crazy,
Spring.
that's right. And it's,
So to your point, a lot of people want to hear about what I do, right? So I sit this away, I play with people, play games with people, that's great. But people want to
What
hear about
else?
the person, right? They want to know what the person's
now
doing.
you gotta decide if you're willing to share that. So like
Yeah.
I share, as you guys know, a ton, but I also don't do what most people do. Almost all my friends that are building personal brands mainly rely on their children, their family life, and their pets, because that does well in social. I do none of that. I don't, as you guys know, there's nothing about my family. You can't, there's like one picture of my son on the internet and like 3 of my daughter on the internet. So like, you know,
Gotcha.
you know, I think you have to, it's all about self-awareness, my man. There's no right answer. There's the answer that you know is true to you, that you may not like. You may not like that you want short-term money. You may not like that you don't need a lot of money. You may like that you do, like, you need to know yourself, but it's very simple. It's content and patience.
Okay.
And the patience needs to map your ambition. If you only want, if you think like it'd be amazing to make $100,000 a year and like that's the best, you can start selling now, right? Like you can figure it out and like build towards it. But if you've got bigger dreams and aspirations in a world where everybody is going to be available to everybody, you have, the only way to stand out is to be the person that's not asking.
Gotcha.
Like what I'm spending all my time is giving, right? Like I'm trying, even like, so right, I've been on a huge path of like motivational, inspirational giving, but as you can tell lately, I'm trying to do more tactical stuff, like back to what you mentioned, which is my DM detail. Like we're trying to do like, I just hired a writer so I can go into more detail on what I actually do, because now I want to feed people who are like, okay, Gary, I get it. I gotta go crush it. I gotta go do it. But like, how? Right? And so I'm trying to force myself, which doesn't come as natural to me, because I'm so macro, right? Like, and Maribel can tell you, and D-Rock can tell you, like, I don't even like even in like our real life, I don't like getting into the details. It's like, this is what it is. You figure out the details, you know, because that's the harder part.
So
having the vision and understanding the macro is much harder.
The
So
whole
let's-
email is in the subject line.
Yeah.
No, no kidding, that's
What's very interesting with that is that, so before I took on this role, you know, as doing DIY full time, I was working for Apple. I worked for Apple for 7 years. So I work, you know, sales. I've done business sales. I've done a lot of mobile device strategy and things like that. So creating something from a connection standpoint has been difficult because I'm used to the salesy side, right? Whereas bow ties, like I just started a bow tie line, Be Great Bow Ties. I can literally sell bow ties to people. I can talk to people about bow ties because I'm used to the sales cycle. But when it comes to connection and trying to be like, you know, you should buy into school, should buy into my workshop series because it's kind of like, and that's,
I'll give you good advice. I think that you need to not sell the macro. You need to create so much content that it comes to you.
gotcha.
That's what you can do well.
Okay.
I think you should scratch your sales on the micro and the bow tie. I think that's great. Nice little thing, not too expensive. It's not like a $5,000 course, this and that. But I think if you can produce enough media that it comes to you, I think that's the most fascinating thing about what we do here at VaynerMedia. Like, we don't, in a world where mainly you win business by doing a long 2-month RFP, and a lot of dollars put into it, I'll just send a random email to the team and be like, hey, we just won this big telecom business because it came to me, I had dinner, and away we go, right? And so the best way to sell is not to sell. And the best way to do that today is to produce content at scale and understand the distribution of media, because that's what's making people's minds up.
Gotcha, cool. Thank you.
It's funny, man. This might be a bit selfish for my son, right? Because my son, his aspirations is to be a YouTube star. Right?
Of course, like every single 8 to 15-year-old in America wants to either be a YouTube star or an influencer.
And he has great, here's the thing, he has great grades the whole night, right?
Yep.
And I don't, to be honest, because like I said, I've been hustling for life, so I don't care what he does. Like, do what you love. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
But my deal with him was this: I will support you wholeheartedly if you make content. And I told him to look at you, because I was like, I remember you from way back in Wine Library, right? And I was like, this guy kept making videos when nobody was watching him. And I told him, I said, you need to make 1 video a week. If you make 1 video a week, you make 52 videos in a year. We cool, right? Right?
What a lucky
Me and you are cool, right? This dude has made probably 200 videos in the last 2 years, right? He loves it, man. The thing is, and that's why I'm being selfish, because I'm asking for him.
Yep.
Because he doesn't. I keep telling him,
How old
man,
is he?
listen, he's 17. He's about to graduate tomorrow. So, and that's the thing. His mom, like, people on the outside of our family will look and go, like, man, he needs to go to school. He has great grades. But I'm like, look, man, go after YouTube. If YouTube's your thing, he loves it.
So
He
what's
loves
doing the
editing
day after
video.
work? What's he gonna do?
Start working on YouTube. Like, right now, he takes a bus to the library because we have a free, like, digital studio, which is, like I told him, I said, you lucky like Bill Gates was lucky. I was like, Bill Gates had an opportunity to get into computers early because of the club. I said, that dude, I said, you have a computer at the library that lets you edit, do all the Final Cut Pro, the whole 9.
Mark, why don't you send him, why doesn't he come and hang with my team right outside my office for a week?
Yeah.
He'll learn more in 1 week than
That's what, and that's his biggest thing.
Done.
He just really wanted, he
Send
wants
him.
subscribers. Yeah,
Send him.
got you.
Done. Man, really,
It's done. Got you.
I love he stopped talking. He was like, don't ever talk to Sam.
Got it.
There's no more sentence, done.
Larry, I saw you had an interview with Larry King in November last year, and you mentioned something interesting about data and connectivity. You said Africa's an interesting place because everyone has a fucking phone. It's crazy. I'm in the village.
It's crazy.
Woman has 2 phones. I'm like,
It's
I
crazy.
have 1 phone. No, for real.
No,
She
it's
has
the
2 phones.
entire infrastructure.
It's crazy. They don't have house phones. People calling me in the village on a cell phone. Like,
Well,
where'd
it
you
gets
get the cell phone?
real extreme.
Right?
They don't have all the things we take for granted.
They
They have
don't.
3 phones.
Right, so my question to you is,
Yeah.
what can we learn from that here, being that, as part of this whole TED stuff and planning, we're looking for those disruptors, right? And in the US, we had landlines. The first thing people know there is cell phones.
Yeah.
So they've skipped the leapfrogging an entire infrastructure system.
That's right.
So from media perspective and personally, what is your interest there?
Quite a bit. So I've been debating for the last year to make our next VaynerMedia office in Johannesburg. I've become very friendly with a guy by the name of Black Coffee,
Yeah,
who's
South Africa.
literally one of the most famous people on that whole continent. I'm going to Ghana next week. I'm gonna do an event that's like an entrepreneurial event. It's no question in my mind the world version of what I believe, meaning it's the arbitrage. Africa is the arbitrage in like society. It's the underpriced asset of opportunity from its people, it's so entrepreneurial. Like, what's interesting about Eastern Europe, Africa, China, it's such purebred entrepreneurship. It's so entrepreneurial, it gets into things that we don't consider noble. It gets into like, it gets into very deep corruption, but it's pure. it's like this pure corruption.
That is
like,
pure
like
sport,
here we do
yeah.
bullshit corruption. There it's just like, you know.
My favorite phrase is money works, right?
Here we call it lobbying, right? Over there, it's just give me the brown bag.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Bulgaria, they said money works.
It's a pure. That's exactly right. So I would say it's very much on my mind, but it's on the reason I don't talk about it, right? Like you've never heard me talk about it, is because I eat my own medicine, which is don't tell me what you're gonna do it. Right. So my normal state is I'm gonna do it, then I'll talk about it, but it is very, very, very top of mind. And I think again, you know, one thing I've realized is fame is the ultimate arbitrage in our society, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know this, Jay-Z sold his shares in Tidal to Sprint, right? 100% on the back of his fame. Like, 100%. Like, it's a piece of shit. And they bought it because he was able to leverage himself for it.
He does that a lot.
That's what he does for everything. But that's such a macro. It's one thing to put your name on like a cognac. It's another thing to sell a completely worthless stock at scale. Completely worthless. So I'm definitely in an interesting time in my career because as my internet fame is growing very rapidly over the last 6 months, and I believe that is the only platform that matters. Now a lot of questions are running. Now the ambitions are greater, right? Now I feel like I can do a 6-city tour with Black Coffee doing what he does and me opening and doing what I do and leaving Africa in 10 days as the 37th most famous person in Africa. Like you know, that's just awesome. Very powerful. And so I'm crippled. The thing that all of you have felt, right? I'm sure all of you can understand this because it's always happened and now I'm feeling it at the biggest scale. You start getting crippled by opportunity as good things happen.
Yes. Yeah. Too much.
Yeah.
Even when you open up your mind, right? By the way, that's what I'm doing for the athletes. Just by opening their mind, they're like, wait a minute, I can do anything. I'm like, I'm like, when you get drafted, every single person in that city is on your Rolodex if you want it.
That's the right move.
That's true.
So I guess the answer is yes.
Okay.
And I'm not going to talk about it a whole lot other than I'm going to start executing.
My mother does something, you know, it's a cultural thing. We bring gifts. So I brought you a shirt from Ghana.
I appreciate it. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be, I'm going to literally wear this next week and they're like, he's in the know.
Jump in there, dog.
So couple of things.
Wait, introduce
Yes.
yourself because you weren't here.
I'm Dave Sullivan. I'm the founder of Squire. It's a back-end software system specifically focused on small businesses, but we do CRM tools, we do POS. We're first servicing the underserved market of barbershops. So think about it as an open table for barbershops. We went through Y Combinator. We raised about a little under $2 million so far. And my question is essentially, there's so many ideas out there. However, it's minorities that aren't getting funded. You know, I think there's only 15 Black women that raised over $1 million in capital, and you know, African American guys probably like 25. And there's hundreds of VCs getting funding. So I don't think it's a talent pipeline. I think it's an opportunity pipeline. How do you think your thoughts on getting more entrepreneurs, underrepresented entrepreneurs that aren't in the same group tank as the other guys?
I think about this a lot. So 2011, 12, 13, I made a lot of money by investing in female-based startups because they were so underpriced. Birchbox, Brit.co, you know, McMac. I just kept investing not because I'm a good guy. Because I just didn't because you know the other thing about money, talking and working is money's unemotional. One thing I tell a lot of people is like, look, at the end of the day, you know, do I believe that it is an opportunity play? I absolutely agree with you, right? 100%. It's really funny, I feel it the other way. I went through the last 2 years of my life not investing. If you looked like the following: 25 years old, white, dude, and you went to Penn or Harvard or Yale, because I believed that you were soft and that you were just riding the wave of what was becoming the new thing, and that you actually should have went to Goldman Sachs or Bain & McKinsey, that you weren't an entrepreneur. So a couple things. My number one thesis in life is don't fight the market, right? So like the thought of like, if old white Sand Hill Road doesn't want to give you money, well then, like, to me, the thought of convincing them that they should is just not smart. So the thing I've been thinking a lot about is reverse engineering who might or who would. I think the greatest thing that any subculture that is at a disadvantage should do is they should map the marketplace and decide. And then, by the way, I have a lot of African American rich friends who have no interest in funding African American, or like it's just like how it is. Like I don't think it's that. I just think who would give you money.
Right.
So I think everybody spends time on being upset that they won't versus tell me who would, right? And then how do you hack them? To me, I would get the 500 people that are family offices, high net worth individuals, black, white, girl, boy, alien, indifferent, and then reverse engineer an infrastructure that looks like YC, that looks like a platform, that I think events, I just think human interaction. You know what's so funny about opportunity? I was thinking a lot about this. I just actually think it's the serendipity of spending time together. Like, just like what's the framework that would let it mingle out? So my binary answer is to not sell to people that aren't sellable and to scale people that are. And I think there's a lot of ways to hack what I just said. It's I think a lot about VaynerSports long term, because the compounding wealth, I won't let, so our advice, we're not the financial advisor, we're not recommending or even talking to our kids about investing in their first contract.
Makes sense.
It's a small deal for most of them still, right? And the thing you learn about, like it's, you know what I've gotten very visceral to is people judging athletes for losing their money without knowing what the fuck they're talking about. You know this way better than I do. I always kind of knew it, now I really know it. When it happens, the social pressure of that entire circle, how do you say no to your cousin? Like when your cousin's gonna actually ask 50 times a day.
Uncle, your mother.
And they told us even when I was in the league, the mantra was like 10K solves everybody's problems. And you got cousins, you got family, right? And again, then and this is a personal point, for me in terms of like when people make that assumption, right, about athletes in general, and then more specific to the finances, it's like, imagine putting yourself in that situation where you had nothing, like literally nothing, even in college, and now you get the big payday and you got family, right? And so there's a lot of pressure around you. And then you don't know who to
And the
trust.
money's not that big.
Right, exactly.
They think it's so much bigger.
It feels big.
Dave, look, as you could tell, maybe thematically, I made myself a real promise going into this room today that I was going to be more action-oriented than thesis-oriented. So let me make you a real promise, another good one. I love that all of this is so on the record. Here's the thing that I think I can do the most. Instead of that opinion, which I think is right.
Got your video.
You're going to be looked up to because of what you've done. I'm sure you're having lots of conversations. I'll make you a real hardcore promise. You send me anybody, and I will send them on their way. Whether I'm so right now I'm not investing, right? But because I think the market's broken. Like I just think everything's overpriced. Everybody with an idea is worth $4 million is ludicrous. I mean, if something's Series B or D, like far along, I would. But a lot of things that I think you would send. But I'll tell you this: if you send me 36 guys and girls in the next 12 months. I will put real effort between me and Phil, Maribel, my team, to get them in the room with anybody and everybody. To me, that's the thing I can do, right? That's the thing I can do. I can get Fred. On the equity I have, I can get Fred Wilson to meet with anybody. Right now, I'm gonna vet. So, it's really funny. There's something I had a really funny conversation with a couple of NBA All-Stars. They were talking about this exact issue, and I was thinking about how much. So I was thinking about this guy who I hate. There's a man I hate because I don't think he's a good person. I think he's actually genuinely, I wouldn't call him prejudiced. I would just call him ethically broken. Just not a good dude. Just not a good dude. Right. But I've also watched him invest in all shapes and sizes. Right? And it was like the reverse of mine, which is I also want to invest in anything. I'm blind to it because I just want to win. I'd like to think I'm a much better person. And then I asked myself, how much of this is opportunity? How much is it prejudice? What's happening here? And then I went to a very totally different place, which is I said, this is where we got with the conversation. I said, is it actually just a marketplace? Is it actually just a marketplace? Like, take emotion out of it. Does money just care about money? And so with them, where it went was like, you know, like, should I be in the NBA? You know, like, it really got into this really interesting philosophical thing, like not about quota or like guaranteed, but market dynamics, because we're like, a lot of you are building market dynamics.
Yep.
Market dynamics. I'm very fascinated by it. And if some of this is, if it's the cliche stereotypes, if like Jewish people are good at business and black people are good, if it's that raw, right? Well, then what can you actually do about it if you care to, if it's important? Which is what's suckered me in to being very scared about and excited about my life right now, because I have, and definitely not millions maybe yet, but let's call it hundreds of thousands and soon to be millions of 14 to 18, 13 to 17, 12 to 18-year-olds looking at me, and I've never felt more pressure and never been more excited because I'm squeezing out excuses, I'm pushing positivity, like I'm doing my thing. It's really cool. You can really impact.
Yeah.
Hip hop really taught me that. Hip hop, I'm 41, and I was really into hip hop. And when I was in high school, hip hop was really hardcore. You had to be a gangster. Like, guys, as you guys know, made up their backstories to make it seem like they came from tougher places, because you couldn't be accepted the way you can now if you grew up in a, you know, I always think about 8 Mile, the last scene, right? With Clarence's parents, you know, like. But it's interesting when it changed. In like after Pac and Biggie got killed, and people were like, "Fuck," you know, like let's talk more about like, and it was happening a little bit before. When it got into champagne, and it got into like, you know, polo shirts and like umbrellas, Bentley, right? Like when it got into a different thing, what it was like, oh my God, all those kids thought that was cool. And then when I'll never forget it, when I saw Lil Wayne start caring about skateboarding, I was like, okay, something very weird's about to happen, because that. Yeah, and you've seen it, right? Like, it's just in a totally different place. And now entrepreneurs hold that pedestal, which I think is great. And I think a lot of you agree, right? Now the key is to teach kids patience, long game, self-awareness, doing it the right way. You know, some kid sent me an email yesterday, and he said, "You've changed my life because I grew up in a really shitty neighborhood, and everybody taught me that hard work was for suckers." And it really hit me. Like, I read it like 4 times last night. And he's like, you know, hard work was frowned upon, that you had to find your way for the short move, the quick score, the angle, that you were good if you did that. And it's really like, already I'm like trying to manifest it in my content. I'm like, okay, I gotta figure out what that means. And so, anyway, that's the answer. That's a very long-winded answer to like, you know what? I can sit here and talk philosophy all I want, but I'd rather do. I'm giving you an olive branch. I've got every fucking relationship. Wow. Right? One by one, right? Just do me a favor. Do me a favor. This is what happens. And this is something I think that Maribel are going to talk about. This is
People don't follow up.
It's not about, I believe he'll follow up. I actually feel very comfortable with that. I think the only way to win is meritocracy. I think what people do now is they pander and we get into charity. Just because somebody looks like a lot of you look like in here, doesn't mean he or she has a good business.
I agree.
And where I'll lose, I'll be able to not help you anymore if I send Fred Wilson somebody that's a 3-minute meeting.
I get it.
So we have to think about that. And honestly, that gets into what you're doing. And like that gets into your, like, that to me is the real issue. It's not that, like, I just know business people. Deep down, they could literally use the N-word. Their grandfather could lynch people. If they think you have the best idea in the world and you're gonna make money, like, I believe that. I believe it more than you would realize because I see it in my day-to-day.
Man, you know what? One of our biggest customers when we used to build enterprise software, we walk in, we're doing deals with him. On the wall, he has all of the Confederate generals in a portrait, Confederate flag above his desk, and he paid us the most money to build software. So what you're saying is exactly true, and it's anecdotal, but we literally were walking into an office with this guy with
his
all
office, his
in
personal
his huge office with all of this stuff in there.
It's interesting.
And
I think it's empowering to people too. I apologize, Dave. I just want to jam with you guys because I'd like to get your sense. You know what I think is the most important part of this conversation? It takes you out of the excuse business. And that just becomes the beginning of the, like, to me it's just like, and.
Would you say it's more economics than race?
No, he.
I don't think so. I think it's more so access.
I think it's access.
Yeah.
I think it's access.
I totally
I think it's access.
I like
Here's the thing, like, so
yeah.
you're sitting in the room right now. You said how many African American males you said have
Like probably like less than 30.
me and you both, us and you,
Yeah.
have done that, right? In this one little
Me
room,
next.
and him. So we in a room with like
At least 4.
almost 10%, yeah, more than 10% of all the black males that have raised that kind of money, right? The thing is that when we went out, we come from Kentucky. I don't know where you come from,
New York.
right? So look, we come from Kentucky. Some of the stuff we heard, one time the dude told us, we sitting there, because they have as gatekeepers in smaller communities. They don't let you get straight to the money. One of the things we heard when we were sitting there was, hey, you know, investors like their CEOs to be like Dick Cheney. So in my mind, I'm like, do I gotta take my friend out in the woods, shoot him in the face? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what's running through my mind. But then he sees my face change up, and dude looks at me and says, oh, no, I mean like Barack Obama. Like, it makes it better, right? But for us, all of us in the room, like, what? Like, we all would think, why would you say that, right? That's the first one. Next time we go in, we gotta go to the gatekeeper again. We never made it to past the gatekeeper. We went to the gatekeeper again. They brought 2 young guys, and they looked at us and it was like, hey, so if we give you this money, where are you gonna raise the rest? So I looked at him in his face and I said, well, look, if we gonna raise the rest out in California with some big investors, we're gonna go out there and do what we gotta do. He looked at me and said, do you know that's like winning a lottery ticket? And I said, well, man, coming from where I come from, me sitting across the table from you, I already won a lottery. Like, the lottery's been won, right? So all I gotta do is go to California, I win another lottery. So at the end of the day, I don't really think that the access comes from us they told us not to knock on doors on Sand Hill Road. Me and him did this like this. Knocked on doors, went and found associates. They was like, you don't do that. You get a connect. I was like, I don't have a connect. I'm a man in the desert that's looking for water. You know what I'm saying?
We literally created our whole network in California by going door to door.
By literally going door to door.
I've learned one thing. People move out of greed and fear. That's only 2 triggers that people move.
Yep.
You know, investors. They move because they're greedy and they want to be more, or fear of missing out.
Yep.
The FOMO effect is so real.
Yeah.
You know, so even if they don't believe, and if even they have a little inkling that you might make it, they're gonna say, hey, because they don't want to miss out on their Uber deals. They don't want to miss
I
out.
think the other thing that I've been thinking while I was listening to you guys talk, one thing that's, it's funny. So do you know, bless you, do you know that I think that almost anybody, and I'm going with like, I believe that your intelligence is soft and your work ethic is soft, like going down there, that the retail arbitrage on eBay and Amazon right now is so extreme. So the thought of trying to raise money sounds so devastating, because you're letting, you have to sell somebody, especially if you've got some sort of disadvantage. Man, I'm really trying to teach people how to make their money to like I'd rather people wait a year or two and that, right? Go ahead.
I sold screensavers on Amazon, like phone cases, like the protectors on Amazon. I bought them from Alibaba for like $1.70, $1.20 at its highest, and I was selling for $9. And those things were just moving.
I still believe that Amazon's retail arbitrage is so extreme. So for me, that was the best thing on the Breakfast Club when Envy called me out and I had to come up with something, and I came up with the 2017 Flip Challenge. I mean, guys, I'm getting emails every day. And people like the gamut, right? Like some people that really have skills and are making like $8,000 a month now, like literally about to quit their job, to like people who literally make $7 an hour, who now are making $500 a week, a month. It's game changing. And it's like, again, I think that I just don't like being at the mercy of anything, and so I'm trying to think about ways where the internet's so macro. Like, it's created so much opportunity. The biggest one of all being, why ever be in a situation where you have to let somebody else be in control of you when we've got these marketplaces?
Yeah. Given that your brand is so strong and a strong psychological base and media has such an influence in politics, are you doing anything related towards that?
I've stayed away from it for now because I think it's highly emotional, like religion, politics, like all these things. It's hard for me to get there. I've got enough things I gotta tackle. I've stayed away from, like, every side of every corner, every level has reached out to me for politics. We've just stayed away from it. I'll take a meeting here and there just to be nice to the person but like I don't want to do anybody's campaign work.
Yeah. And going back to what he was focused on and what I'm focused on related towards like skill development and people from non-traditional backgrounds and entrepreneurship, like most startups fail. you kind of encourage people to like focus on developing a skill first, or like really thinking about that before building something?
My big thing is just to keep it very, very, very real from my point of view, which is most startups are gonna fail. Everybody's focused on Snapchat and Instagram, like, you know, I think that if you know how to flip Alibaba to I wish people could just understand, like, Dave had the talent, that was a gateway to his next chapter. For a lot of people, they don't have Dave's talent, but fuck, man, that's really not as hard as people you know what, it's access of information. Watching all these emails, I'm getting a lot of it. People are just like, wait, I really can go to the dollar store? Like, this is real? Like, just getting people to see it, because I don't think, you know, so my answer is yes, I want to sell practicality. And like, I think it's crazy to think that everybody's born talented enough to build a sustaining business. I mean, that's just ludicrous. The same way not everybody's built to be in a league, right? Like, that's just crazy. I do think that a stunning I would say that 20% of the people who make minimum wage could probably make $100,000 a year flipping shit on the internet. If you just, but if that's even half true, if it's 10%, that changes the world. So what I'm trying to do now, more than anything, is just collect attention. I'm trying to get everybody's attention. Everybody's.
You
right?
about to kill the arbitrage though.
Right.
Like prices are gonna go like this.
But you know what though? But that won't happen because most people won't do it. Like,
correct.
That's how.
That's correct.
That's
Yeah.
so. I mean, even like.
But
as
to
I'm
me,
listening-
to me, if I know that I'm the best communicator in the world, that I go after everybody, I want to suffocate everybody's excuses. If I give you access, if I give you information, if I do it for free, where you like it, in a tone and a vibe that you like, through your neck. The reason I'm spending time with Kyle and Logic and Russ and all these characters is they're going to be the next Gru, and I'm going to use their platforms. I'm going to use their platforms, and I'm going to get to every kid through. Think about what I'm doing. Pay attention to what I've been doing for the last year. I built a sports agency, and I spend all my time with up-and-coming hip-hop artists. So in about 18 months, not only me, but the 34 of them, I will get every piece of information to everybody for free. And to your point, then, are you willing to wake up at 6:30 in the morning and go to the garage sales? Because if you're not, well then who are you blaming? And I'm gonna tell you, like that's the difference. Like I'll tell you, I'll be like, you suck, Cliff. Like I told you what to do. You know what to do.
But that was my point.
Your name tag was so big. Just look at it.
But
Go ahead.
But that was
What's your plan
We'll
with
get
the
back to
chatbots, the Gary chatbot? What do you
I don't know. I to be very frank, I think you know, look, I think so. I did something really smart. We've transcribed every word of every video that I've made. So we're sitting on a real database. Like if you go and look at my search engine on my website, it works. Like I'm even like Jesus. And again, today, funny timing. Eric Kastner's coming. I think. Look, I wanna help people get to what they need to quicker, because time is the game, right?
I would love to have a conversation with Eric.
Great. Give him a few minutes to like figure out what the fuck he's doing. You send me an email, I'll set it up.
So my question has to do with my selfish vision,
Go ahead.
which is to be the leading CPG company with natural products, the next L'Oreal or Procter & Gamble, and I'm focusing on products that work better, work better for curlier hair types, because I feel like that's an area that people didn't really care about before. So the way that I learn is by surrounding myself with smarter people, and I wanted to know who you thought was brilliant in the consumer product space.
I have real people for you.
Yeah.
I have real people.
I just want to learn.
Cool.
Yeah.
Maribel, let's put together a list of 5 to 7 intros. Like, I got real people.
And on that, I'm also very.
Kathy O'Brien.
We just also kicked off our seed fund round after 10 months of due diligence and getting real customers and getting on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. So anyone that you know in the
How much are you raising?
consumer, 500K.
And at what price?
It's uncapped right now. Yeah. Hey, why not 10 million?
Yeah, got it. It's
I
uncapped.
believe in my mission that much, and my vision. Yeah.
What are you,
So it's convertible debt right now.
what are you selling? How much you going to sell? Like,
Okay, so we, so we,
I could show you something I can help you
Yeah, so we just launched our consumer products company in last August. So we made about $35,000 in sale, but I could tell you every single customer that came through our website, and I had like a meetup today in New York for all of our customers here. So I'm learning from them.
Where are you based?
I'm in Philadelphia. We make everything in Cleveland, Ohio. That's where my business partner is right now. Yeah.
How you get customers?
Online, e-commerce.
Is it all direct to consumer right now?
Yeah, direct to consumer, and in Cleveland.
So wait, you're shipping with ice packs?
No. So the technology that we're using right now preserves it way better we don't need ice packs for that. And this is a space where larger hair companies aren't looking at because of that short shelf life. But we're looking into technology that increases it while still maintaining the nutrients value with it. So, yeah.
I mean, I've had some, have you tried Facebook ads?
Oh yeah, Facebook, Instagram, #1. That's what we put all of our money into. We tried Twitter, didn't get any returns with that, but our customer base is growing because of Facebook and Twitter. Facebook and Media.
Let me get down.
No, I had not.
Allie's been
I'll
quiet.
talk to you about that.
Gary, you've done such a great job building communities online, and one thing that I'm really passionate about is harnessing all of this information and bringing that to my hometown where I'm from. How do we create?
Where is that?
Tampa, Florida. How do we create?
Have you been to Burns Steakhouse?
Yeah, the best.
Love it.
How do we create and build our entrepreneurial communities outside of places like San Francisco and New York, and what is the value in that?
Well, it depends on what your mission is. I mean, I think it's going to happen naturally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so popular and real that, I mean, I've watched it literally go from only San Francisco in the last decade to everywhere. There's an incubator, there's a startup there's a co-working space, there's a thing everywhere. I think the question is why, right? Like, so I would ask you, like, is it just because you always want to live there and you love it and just fun? Like I think I always wonder why. I mean, economically, it's incredible, right? Like, if Under Armour changes Baltimore, nothing changes places more than a company that blows up and stays, right? Like nothing. Like, you know, it's why it's so devastating when they leave, right? Like, you know, it's dangerous that way. So I would say it's very easy, actually. You need to create a couple things: a place and the selfish or ROI positive things to keep the best talent there, right? So I actually think it starts on a city level. Like, to me, you go all the way macro, right? Like, even on a state level. Like, if the ambition, if people at the state level or the city level understand the economic impact of keeping talent, they're doing a very bad job of being entrepreneurial to keep kids from going to New York. Or, you know, like, if I was Tampa, if I ran Tampa's P&L, like, I would incentivize the living shit out of the best talent. Like, show me anything, like, show me $100,000 in revenue in a year, DTC, and I'll show you a $100,000 rebate against your tax. Like, it's back to, like, the themes of tonight, which is, it's unemotional. Like, the way you keep people is, like, making it worth their while. Like, you know, like, Jersey can have me back. I'll fucking swim right across this thing right now. Give me free 50,000 square foot building in Jersey City. Let me pay 1%. Like, you can get me. I can make myself real inconvenient. You know, if you make it worth my while. And I think that's a very, like, it's fun to hear how much of the theme of today that is. Like, I think you're right. I think the big CPGs are not looking at that space. And I think Dave's right, which is like, you know, what we don't know, you and I, as we heard that number, is if you have $0 to start with, you know, selling $35,000 a year is actually probably really good and speaks to the, I think the
50% was
what
in
Dave
the last
knows, because he's been
months.
through YC and it sounds like he's got a little experience, is you're not getting anywhere close to a $10 million valuation on data that's already been proven, right? Your 35,000 sales is a negative. All these people are buying on ideas. That's gonna be tough for you. On the flip side, let me give you a real good piece of advice, and I'll help you through this a little bit. I want to see what the lifetime value and, like, the retention of those are. You show me that you only have 49 customers, but they're all buying like, you can work with someone
We're a
like that.
subscription company, so 80% of
Let me
our
tell you one thing
sales
about
are-
subscription right now. Everybody has figured out that subscription doesn't work long tail. make sure you show the data of, do you offer people to buy outside of subscription yet?
Yeah, we do.
Good. That number is gonna be, if you want actual VCs, if you want entrepreneurs, like, they don't give a fuck, they're betting on you. Like, if you go to entrepreneurs, they're gonna bet on you or the idea, but if you actually want institutional money, they suck. They run on math. And they're gonna care about the percentage of people that buy regular off of your subscription, so you should look into that number.
Given, so our podcast has encouraged a lot of people to quit their job to break into tech, but this whole thing about hustling and this whole thing about making money in the meantime is very appealing to me. Would you be willing to talk about like learning how to like hustle on the side on the podcast? Because one of the questions that we ask is like, if you had $100 to break into New York City to get to the same place that you are now, you know, how would you get there?
Yeah.
And I think like a lot of those types of ideas would be helpful.
Yeah, I would definitely do it in the fall for 30 minutes or less.
Okay.
That's what I can promise.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, and by the way, when I wrote Crush It, which was like the coming out moment for my career, the big thing in there was detail of like 7 p.m. to 2 in the morning, not quit your job, you know, because the problem is, the thing that I'm always thinking about when I talk is the lowest common denominator. The person really who's not smart, who doesn't have it at all in like life, who's like literally gets inspired by, my danger is I have motivational DNA, so people could actually get caught and be like, yeah, and quit, and then be fucking really finished, right? Like, I'm scared shitless to tell people to quit because I don't know them. I don't know what their debt is. I don't know what their ability is. Like, cool, you quit. Like, people email me all the time, like in the title, I quit. I'm like, no. Like, I start reading. I'm like, okay, that one seems okay. That, you know, like,
No.
I think that's why I'm so hot on this retail arbitrage. Do you know this is true? What I'm about to tell you, that if you went to Marshall's and spent 3 hours, TJ Maxx and Marshall's, and spent 3 hours every day with a scanner app from Amazon and scanned everything, you would make real money every day if you had the initial $1,000. Like, your bankroll is your game, right? If you have $19, you're gonna get 37. And by the way, you can get there. You can get. It'll take you longer. I'm like ridiculously blown away by that. It's, you know what it is? It's the Google AdWords and Facebook ad of like real stuff.
I'm interested about that.
Go ahead.
Because, like, if you do that at Amazon, then you're gonna have to take time to fulfill it. You're gonna have to buy some fake reviews, and then, but it's just a lot of time to package it in chicken.
Yeah, but you know, Dave, I think the reason you're even asking that is you're filtering through your lens. Your capability and time value is extreme. When somebody's making $26,000 a year, it's mathematically ROI positive, especially if they're genuinely working 9 to 3. Like, you know, it's like, I think it's an amazing blueprint for like teachers, like people who, like when you have that whole summer when it's prime, you know, when you become an expert and you can go to any garage sale and be like, boop, 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 you know. Yeah, there's a lot that comes with it. The exciting part is I'm pitching towards people who are monetizing about $7, $8, $9, $10, $11 an hour of their time.
So I went to
Like, you are not that guy.
Amazon,
my
yeah, but they gotta pay like FDA fees, like
It chips away, but I'll tell you, I've seen a lot of, I'm looking at a lot of, a stunning amount of data now. It just comes down to what your time's worth.
Right.
Like, to me, I'm at a place now where like, I don't even like look, you know what's funny about me, Lamar, is I actually am because I fucking love it so much. But I'm doing it once in a while. It's really crazy, like there's just a lot of people whose time right now in their life is worth to like how they can earn $9.
But I like
and that's where you can win.
I like that piece though, because you're talking about people. I mean, we got real deep into dollars and cents. I mean, the reason, like for mine, you know, the best friends that I had in school, like, are dead. Like, not like don't have a job,
Right.
like,
Aren't
are
around.
like dead, right?
Right.
And so the apparatus that I'm trying to build around, right, is like, one, I want to thank you for just like, this is a room full of black folks, like black entrepreneurs, and whoever platform is doing or whatever. I just think that just needs to be seen, and I just think that that's a dope opportunity. But two, what everybody in this room has kind of figured out on some level is how to navigate to make sure that they have the things that they need. So I get paid to go speak at schools and across the country and all that stuff. It don't matter how great, like E.T. does it. You had him on Eric Thomas on here too. Like, it's always, I just talked in Fresno, like 500 black kids. It's always 10 to 15% though that come up to you afterwards and it's like, hungry and wants that piece, right? So as I'm building this piece,
The problem is, of that 10 to 15%, there's only another 10 to 15% that are willing to do the things you tell them to do.
Absolutely. So this is the thing. I graduated from high school. I graduated like top 10% or whatever. I was still remedial everything in college because I'm in the forest I'm thinking I'm outrunning the bear. I ain't outrun a fucking bear. I just outran everybody around me.
100%.
And so what this is like, so I'm gonna teach that 5% that actually get on it how to outrun the people around them. But the piece around that, the duty piece, is that now you need to go back with a meat cleaver and a machine gun to go shoot this bear. Like these folks are learning, like that's, so is it, so I guess you kind of just answered my question in the head now, because I was like, I'm really gonna focus and put a lot of my energy on that 5%. That's
You know what's
doing
interesting,
stuff.
Charles? You know what's super interesting as you were talking that really went through my mind is the reverse engineering of one. So that's something I spend all my time on, right? Thank you economy, how I think about VaynerMedia, how I sell, what I do. It's so interesting to me. I love everything you're saying, because what I think you're doing is you're gonna help other Charles.
Right.
Like you're looking for you,
Right.
right? It's so funny. Me actually looks the part of the other 90% in that school. I'm trying to help Gary, which ironically usually is minorities and people at disadvantage, because I was so rogue, like lived in this weird, when I now I understand why I'm an anomaly. My family was a cocoon. We were like super immigrated out. My mom had no friends. We were like in our little shit, like I was oblivious to the world. I was in my own fucking like world. And so what's interesting to me is this is the rise of Gary, right? Like this era, this is the rise of Gary. Because when I think, who do I think is more successful in the world going forward? The DNA traits of winning in those very difficult places, the hustle, the flip. It's so, like the amount of kids from the ghetto, all shapes and sizes, that can absolutely make $1 million t-shirt brand on Instagram way faster than all these kids I know on the Upper East Side. I think that's where this shit's getting real interesting.
Right.
I love what you're doing, because I can't even imagine, it's the same way I do it. You're done talking, these kids come up, and you literally see them in yourself. You know exactly who they are.
Right.
For me, I want to go and talk. I almost feel like maybe you and I should give one talk together, because I want to talk to the 90 that are going to walk outside and try to make some sort of like quick buck, because I know that I'm like them, but I had something else. So I know I can sucker 4 of them into being like, no, don't do that. It's that, but put that energy towards this and hold your breath, and here's how you get through in the short term. But it's really good, man. Like you were just talking, like, yep. He's going to really help those kids, because everything you just painted it's just little you.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're just going to try to speed up that process.
Absolutely. I mean, because those folks
Betting on your strengths.
didn't have that
That's a
piece
version
there,
of it.
so.
Yeah, and also what you said, it just made me think, I was just telling him, you said, it made me go back to the market as the market, right? And like you said, you'll have the 90%, then it'll dwindle down to the 10, and then it'll dwindle down to the 5%. Because one of the things we always talk about with people, like when we were coming up, there was always those like, man, I want to do what you guys are doing. And then they walk away as soon as the pain hits.
And look, Mike comes and speaks, Charles comes and speaks. To me, it's super interesting, because we know, the thing that I'm trying to really manifest is I know that 95% of when they're talking, kids in that audience, and they know, are like, fuck that.
Right.
Like he got lucky, or like he doesn't know my problems, right? What's interesting is for some unknown reason, I can connect with that kid.
You're immigrant.
Yeah, it's just interesting. I can connect with that kid.
Yeah,
The one whose like uncle taught him to be like shit the whole time, and for some reason, I can get through to him for 5 seconds. What I'm trying to figure out is like, what do I, like, I know what I'm doing with it. Now I'm like, how do I scale it? And that's why I'm trying to hack culture. Like what I'm trying to do is hack culture, because that's what they listen to.
Right.
And there's a lot more of them than there are of what, right?
Charles.
Like the amount of people that are gifted with the talent and then actually get through all the like war fields of like, whether you come from, by the way, I'm not just saying you grew up in a bad neighborhood, grow up in a great neighborhood and don't get hurt, have the right coach, like forget about, like you didn't get shot on the way after practice, forget about that extreme, just how impossible. That's why entrepreneurship can save this thing, because it's real hard to become Jerry Rice or Lil Wayne, like real hard. Like there's only so many slots.
Literally.
But you can make $97,000 a year with your small little jam business or SaaS business. Like it's there. It's the long tail of ROI of building your business is so much longer. And that's why I'm excited that entrepreneurship is winning culturally, because a lot more kids are gonna build $100,000 a year life for themselves than, you know, because it's feast or famine in athletics and hip hop, right?
Yeah, I think to that point, that's one of the big things that I talk about. As you can imagine, like, I took an unorthodox approach to like my career transition. You know, most guys go into fitness or, you know, coaching or whatever, which is fine. But for me, I wanted to do something that kind of leveraged my characteristics. And as you mentioned, you know, being able to make it to that level is fucking hard. And so one of the things that I realized, kind of just jumping out there without any real guidance or motive, like breaking into tech essentially, you know, I realized that the transferable skills, you know, and characteristics from making it to that level, like, you know, and people looked at it, and I never really knew until, you know, I'm getting interviewed, and people were like, so how did you have the wherewithal to incorporate January 2016 and in 8 months build a team, a product to raise $1 million and launch? The question was posed to me where I was like, wait, what's everybody else doing?
Yeah.
You know, like, it usually takes 2 to 3 years to accomplish that. And so now one of the things that I do, as you said, like, it's about exposure, access, and so when I talk to athletes, you know, just by way of the platform, you know, I'm like now I'm the tech guy very quickly in my peer circles, and you know, I preach to them like, bro, you can do this. Like, this is just another field that we can dominate because we've been dealing with adversity, we've been dealing with uncertainty, you know, effective communication.
When you're an athlete, a professional athlete, that is way more leverage. Like, there's somebody who's gonna say yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what to say.
And to your point, like,
Devin Smith, second round pick of the Jets, went to Ohio State, just got cut, right? 4 surgeries, hasn't played at all in his 3 years. If he walks in this room right now, like, he's far more likely to get something from me. Like, it's just leverage.
Yeah,
Like, I'll tell you how you did it. You had leverage. It's what athletes in our society are at the top of the pedestal.
Yeah.
There was a lot more people that took your meeting because of what you did before.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah,
That's true. I've seen
felt
that
100%.
But then also, you know, one thing that I also was very passionate about in those meetings was, look, you know, I'm not just an athlete with a great idea. When you look at the pedigree of graduating early from Duke, you know, teaching myself
It's
how
real.
to code, going
It's
through
real.
Draper,
It's real.
you know, that's where they saw that intersection.
100%.
So, I'm saying
That's why.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm not taking away from the access. I'm saying that
Oh, no,
Use what
you
you got.
Sure.
you know, what I always say to people, like Maribel will tell you this, like you've heard me here say, like, I think the thing, back to show the profit, like the thing that I always try to do with everybody is like, look, yes, you have this disadvantage, comma, nobody gives a fuck.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, you were born in Kentucky.
Yeah.
But the value's
Right?
in that.
Right?
though.
Of
But
course,
that's
the
value is
values,
in the difference.
the value's in it
It's in the
when you
difference.
love having, like, I like having a chip on my shoulder. I keep going into new businesses because as my profile gains, I gotta like go fuck up other shit where they say I can't, because once I can, it's not interesting,
Yeah.
right?
The value's in that difference.
But a lot of people,
Yeah.
I mean, 99% of people don't look at it as the advantage.
Yeah.
You listen.
Complain, yeah.
By the
I
way,
like the depth of
I mean,
it.
I don't have the audacity to say it in this room. I just think it's an advantage in the new world.
I
In this
think so,
world.
yeah.
In 1964, no. Where you had to go through the gatekeepers? No.
Yeah, arbitrage.
If you ask me, it's a bigger advantage than people realize because adversity is the weapon.
Yeah.
It's the weapon. But it's hard to say that because then you're so out of touch because people are like, fuck you.
But not in the black enterprise room, it's not, right? Like, I mean, I
Well,
think,
because you
like,
understand it.
I guess so. Like, I was very comfortable, just as comfortable being negative $400 for 6 months in my account. I was comfortable. I was
Right.
not.
You grew up like
I
that.
didn't care about
We've
that.
been there, man.
Right.
Negative 4.
Because you know
Negative 4.
I came when we had no food in the refrigerator. You know, it was that. So when things weren't going before we raised some money, like, it was tough, but there was not a point where I said give up. But a lot of other folks would have went back to Wall Street, would have did all this
Right.
stuff.
100%.
But you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that separates.
Listen,
the people
brother,
that
If working at 2 in the morning is the hardest, I lived in a shelter, bro. Like, nothing's hard. Like, I can smell with that shelter. Like, real talk. Like, I've been homeless in Oakland and, like, Kentucky and in Chicago. Like, I can smell what that shelter feel like. So if it's like, oh, I got to be up at 3 in the morning to get this degree, it's like,
Right.
oh, that's it? That's what I got to do? It's nothing.
Because I talk to cats from like out of the country, right, all the time, from Draper, like over in that area,
Good-ish,
over
right?
in Booth, and And they're
Yeah,
always
Rush
talking
IQ,
about how, like, they can't raise money
Yeah, and we
because
got the back
people don't
end 2 people.
understand
Is
them,
Eric still
or
in?
that they're from a different space
Love it.
or whatever.
Cool.
But I always tell them,
And then I'm kind of curious.
yeah, but I always tell them, I'm like, look, man, like, your value is because you're different. Because out of the 20 people that they saw, you will stand out. You, because you speak different.
It's
because
access.
you look different.
It's fucking
Once
access.
you get in the door, it's like, you gon'
It's luck.
No, it's access.
Now,
Listen, I don't.
I hate being called lucky. That's the one way I end up fighting with my friends though. Like, cause
I tell you, I'm very fortunate. I was lucky. You know what I'm saying? Like,
You know what the problem with luck is, Dave, and you know this, like, and I never, Charles, I never say no to luck,
Right.
but I also don't say yes, because what I think is, you're about to tell a story, and if I had more time, I would just sit for an hour going backwards to everything where you did something that started the process to luck. I do believe that.
Yeah.
But look, listen, I'll say I'm the luckiest in the whole room. I was born in I don't give a fuck about shelter. Soviet Russia is the worst. Both my grandfathers, it's funny. So some of you might know this, you've been following, you probably know this tomorrow. I went to Mount Ida College, and my entire friend group is African American. And they'd come home and hang out in college, and my dad is real funny, like doesn't talk a whole lot. And he's just a funny guy. He's very confrontational. He's a very different than me guy. I'll never forget it. The first time he ever comes down, he doesn't even know my friends yet. There's just like 4 black dudes and an Asian dude and me sitting at my kitchen table. And he looks at all of them and goes, "You think it's tough being black in America?" I'm like, fuck. I'm like, here we go. He goes, "Try being Jewish in Russia," and just walks off. And my friends were like, they were cool. They're like, "Your dad's funny." And I was like, but it's really interesting. As I've gotten older, both my grandfathers, both of them, spent 7 and 11 years in jail for being Jewish. So like, just imagine with all the terrible parts of the American police and judicial system on prejudice, imagine they had carte blanche. Yeah, so like, forget about it being bad and getting like, I got pulled over 3 times in the first 5 trips to the mall at Mount Ida College, and I knew racism was the realest thing on earth. Like, I was like, this is crazy. Like, it became like a game. I was like, I hope we get pulled over this time. Like, it was like, but imagine those cops in Russia, they just put you in jail for 11 years. So like, what people don't realize is how fucked up America is and how much better it is than a lot of alternatives. Anyway, punchline being, like, I do think luck's interesting. I think I'm lucky because I was born in the Soviet Union, but I was born during the time for 5 minutes, and I mean a year, they traded, Russia was running out of food, and Israel and the US teamed up and traded wheat from America to Russia to get Jews out, and I got in out of that little circle. So I can't not think, right? Lucky, but I'll be very honest with you. The truth is, this is why I've been talking a lot more about this, the odds of becoming a human being are 400 trillion to 1. Like, I just think everybody's lucky in this room.
You're the best swimmer.
You know?
That's my point. So if it's that difficult,
They're like,
to
where
get
do you
here,
take
why
luck?
would
Because to me,
everything else
luck
be
is being a
easy, right?
human.
That's my thing. You have to be the fastest swimmer, then you have 9 months of hell.
Yeah.
Why would anything else come easy?
I know you were working
Yeah.
with your
Right.
developer, but have you evaluated like different platforms?
Yeah, I've looked at a ton of like, there's so many platforms built on top of, your guys, all these platforms are built on top of other platforms, right? So like, to me, a infrastructure on top of a Facebook API or a Lex API or things of that nature, it's commoditized. You're smart enough to create a layer on top of it. I have the ability to build that layer in like 4 minutes, especially if I'm not building a platform and I'm building it for myself and create all the customization. Could it save me a couple weeks, especially if you had mature API to like build on top of? Sure. Am I far, what's her name, Cristiano Milan, right? Cristiano Milan, right? She and I had a conversation. She's like, we'll build this app for you for free. I'm like, no shit. I'm like, because you're smart, because you're going to leverage my brand equity to get more customers. So, the answer is I've looked at all of them, because.
Have you looked at
No. Let me rephrase. I've looked at a ton of them, but you guys are smart. They're all the same, meaning they're built on top of another platform, and then whatever feature set and how you created it comes down to your unique twist. To me, that's great, and I fucking think you should do that, because guess what that is? That's everything. Facebook's built on top of it. Like, that's all good. For me, the only reason I would do something with you, Cliff, is because I'd want to put you on. That would be it. I don't know what else to tell you.
I know the game.
And by the way, I'm okay with that. Especially if the other person knows what the actual score is. I hate when people are like, my favorite, let me buy you lunch. Like, I don't need your fucking lunch. I need my 45 minutes.
Right.
You know, like, it's that thing, right? I would do it if I wanted to put you on or things of that nature. That's why I would build my product on top of somebody else's platform. Otherwise, I'll go, listen, I have disproportionate access to Facebook and Instagram and others, but where I'll get API access or, you know, feature sets before they're out if I build natively, not if I build on top of yours. They're not going to do that for me because they don't want to give your platform that advantage because of what political or business reasons. So a lot of times building on top of other people's things is a detriment to me because I could just text Zucks or Kevin Systrom or fucking, you know, Snapchat and I'll have a better fucking direct see. So that's why I don't do it often.
Right.
But I love putting like I've done stuff with people just for, if I use your platform, you're forever set. It's really funny, back to hip hop, it's how I think about, like, you let Snoop come in on your album.
Get on yours.
It's real, that's how I think about it.
Yeah.
So
Life.
thinking of in that
Uncle
whole
Stu.
theme, right, of like putting somebody on.
Yeah.
You know, obviously you got an amazing, you know, deep fan base, right? And I'm very passionate about the mantra of, you know, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? But I'm also very much so into lifting as I climb, right? So with you
100%.
being in your position, how do you, when you look at a person, an individual, whether it's through your Snapchat or somebody you just serendipitously ran into, how do you make the decision of
Intuition.
like, I wanna, you know, spend time?
Intuition.
Yeah.
Intuition 85% of the time, 15% of the time, somebody earns it by really not asking anything of me for a long time.
But what is the intuition piece of it? Like, what about their, like, you know,
I mean, this thing I
grind
just
or-
told you, like, first of all, I don't talk a lot about it because I think people use their good, like, as a weapon to, like, paint a fake picture of them. So I'm pretty quiet about my stuff, but weird, I don't know, fucking, I was going through my Snapchat, I was on the runway to go to Bucharest, and there was just something about the way, like, intuition, something about the way the kid was, like, his brother is mentally ill, you know, they live in a studio in the Bronx, like, and everything he said was on point. When I like, so sometimes I'll dig, and then like it gets to the moment, and the person was full of shit. But like he said a number, and he took a picture of like what he like to the dot. He didn't say $1 more, you know. And by the way, my intuition's been super right, super wrong. I have no idea why I do it. Sometimes like it's just life, right? Like it's just life. But like. What I'm really proud of is my scalable version is the way I treat my content and my interactions. All this stuff I do takes a lot out of me, a lot more than people realize. It takes a lot of infrastructure, a lot of energy. It comes at if I spent 100% of my time building VaynerMedia, like it would be bigger. Like on me, it would be bigger. Like it, you know, I think I have a lot to give, and I think somewhere along the way when I realized people listened to me, that thing, then I was like, fuck, now I have a responsibility. Like if I can break through to people that normally can't get broken through to, now I'm caught. Now I'm in my gift is my curse. Like now I need to do something about it. But honestly, my man, it's super serendipitous. Like I didn't walk in here and say like, okay, I'm gonna try, like I don't know, you know? It's just the way it is. It's how life is, right? You know why? Because I will tell you, I am not willing to pander. I know my intent is pure. If my shit is on blast, like I'm never scared, right? Some girl emailed me on the flight here. She's like, hey, you know, nobody in the black community trusts you anymore because of the shea moisture thing. I'm like, okay. I'm like, so I wrote her back. I was like, okay, why don't you come through and talk to me about it because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. This is what I wrote to her. And I'm like, and I don't think you're coming from a back, but like when I read it, and I read it 5 times, she's trying to leverage me.
Exactly.
Like 100%.
Exactly.
Like not like. And by the way, I'm gonna pander. I'm gonna teach her a good lesson in life, because she doesn't know. And so to me, like there's always things going on, but I just know who I am. I'm never ever scared, which then means I'm not checking a box for you, right? I've always said something. You know, I've said this story to a couple people at Vayner. When the immigration thing got real hot that weekend, right? Everybody in this company wanted me to like do something. If I would have donated $10,000 to, you know, any organization that, you know, during that weekend, this whole company would have put me on a pedestal. Meanwhile, I've spent over 6 figures now for Risa and Niall and all the and Pino. Like, I'm doing the right thing, but I'm not interested in putting it on blast. And I'm comfortable with people judging me, pro and con. I get too much accolades, and I don't get enough, because that's what being out and about is about. But as long as the people closest to me know, then I'll be okay. And most of all, I'll be very honest with you, I know. And I would scare you with how much I don't give a shit about even what my wife and my parents think of me. Right? I would scare you, because I just know who I am.
That's powerful.
We know you gotta go, so.
But I milked a couple more minutes, and I feel like I made it tough and canceled someone. Go ahead.
No, just to make sure
Yeah.
that everybody got everything in, but from a Black enterprise.
Yeah, let's
standpoint.
talk about that.
Yeah, so we're a legacy brand. We've been around 47 years. So what is your advice in terms of how to basically create a shift in the mindset internally?
There's always going to be the new incumbent brands who are native. It's VaynerMedia's story. We're native to the new world. Of course we're going to fuck up Ogilvy and Gray and, like, it's just what always happens. When you're native to something, you're native to it. So you have to break your shit. You have to check all the history and the romance at the door, which is impossible for the child of the founder. Here's what you can do.
That was my question.
You need to, in the most respectful way, if you want to keep your job, communicate the truth. Because if you pander to the false, you will lose.
Yeah.
Because here's what will happen. When you actually bring it straight, 2 things happen. 1, you get fired. 2, you get to change it.
Right.
Both will help the company.
Right.
If you get fired, and you shot it real straight, it's created the context of the conversation in the ecosystem. The key is, a lot of people try to shoot stuff straight with me without actually knowing the full context. The key about shooting straight is to shoot straight. Not shoot straight for what's in your interest, not at the macro. So if you really believe it, then you gotta say it. But you gotta be careful about knowing, a lot of people like to tell AOL what to do 7 years ago without knowing that dial-up services was still 71% of their revenue at the time.
Right.
Like, people would roll in, youngsters from the Valley, because this was fun for me, like the Silicon Valley, but I was it was interesting. They would roll in like early Twitter people that were like thinking they were big shots because they were BJ Armstrong, right? Which means they had nothing to fucking do with those championships, but they were. That's what I call
Bulls fan here, sir.
I hate the Bulls.
I know you do.
But
I'm sorry. You should though.
Of course I
Knicks
should.
fan.
I hate BJ Armstrong, and by the way, he's become a really
He's
good
a
agent.
great
By the way,
agent.
he's a great
An
agent.
amazing
He's a great.
And he got rings.
He's got lots of rings.
Rings.
But
All the receipts.
I've learned more about business and sports because of the BJ Armstrong thing. All these kids that were like number 11 at Facebook or Twitter and thought they were number 23. I'll never forget this one meeting. This one kid walks in and tells AOL, you should shut down, you should cancel all your dial-up tomorrow and do this. And as a conversation in 2007, there's a lot of people, it's like, listen, I've stopped talking about a lot of shit because I've realized how dumb I am in the shit that I don't know. You can't tell a company to shut down 71% of their revenue, right? So if you're right, then you have to come correct. But if you need to make sure you're right.
Right.
And then that's it. And that's the game.
But
Please.
so specifically,
Yes.
what can they do to iterate based off of what the legacy is?
They need to make all of their economics tie into the reality of the new world, which is
Right.
mobile content first, and none of it in print, TV. Like, all the economics that are tied into the old world need to become nice to haves, not the driver of the business, which is very difficult.
Right.
But you have no choice. I mean, the cost of dollars it took for this newbie to come in and cause trouble, it's not a lot of money. The internet's it doesn't cost Vice anything. It doesn't cost Refinery 29 anything to fuck up L'Oreal. It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Thomas is you're pulling attention from other entertainment sources.
Yep.
Like, when people watch 30 minutes of Daily V, that's 30 minutes that they're not watching something else.
Mm-hmm.
This is just one big trade on attention. And there's unlimited stories now. And it's a market, right? Like, it's just guys, I'm telling you, it's an all-time time. It's the same shit like Ted Turner and Bob Pittman and all. It's MTV, it's BET, it's CNN, it's that moment. Everything's getting reinvented. Like, you can say, I want to build, when you
Let it
just said,
down.
you know what I thought when you said that? I'm like, this is the greatest fucking era of all time. The fact that you're not being laughed out of the room, because 15 years ago you'd be laughed out of the room. You needed $50 million in capital to even begin to even say the word Johnson & Johnson, L'Oreal, or Procter & Gamble without being complete, I mean, like, you couldn't, 50 million in R&D, distribution, trade dollars. It's just an amazing time. It's amazing.
Retail,
And honestly, it makes me optimistic for everybody who has disadvantages. Because the internet is the middleman,
Yes.
not those fuckers you met with in Kentucky.
Lexington.
Given that you're so connected on the hip hop influencers,
Yeah.
I know we're talking about athletes and
Yeah.
who are an investor.
Mhm.
Are you talking to them at all about investing in Black and brown people?
In what?
And just
Sure.
in tech
I
in
mean,
general,
to me,
like bring them
Phil
up
knows
to
the
that.
filter. Like I literally answer every call. Like it's just cold. Like it's really funny. It's the same way I think about hiring here. Like we're trying to make a better pull towards diversity. But I always tell like Claude, like just put people in front of me. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like just show me somebody who can. Like I would never think like my team is far more diverse than VaynerMedia, only because I would never think.
Yeah.
Like we hired a guy who was an Uber driver. Like I don't care.
Yeah.
Again, that's the advantage of not being. You know, it's really funny. Brown, black women who were great Ivy League kids. It's it's funny. You asked the right question in a lot of ways to me. A lot of times it's not the things you think. Like it's the theme of tonight, which is like show me a black kid who grew up in Oakland but went to Duke and then went to Wharton, and let me show you who he's hiring, who she's hiring. It's more people that do that. For me, the advantage of why I feel good about myself is I was ranked 279 out of 281 in my school. 96% of the kids I went to college with were African American or Latino. 96%. Like, it's my norm. It's my norm. I don't even think that way. And now what I have to reconcile, especially as I have a big responsibility, is I don't like to pander either. So I don't want to, listen, go look at the schools that were forced to diversify. The 10% that were the best at it became bad because they were forced against their intent. The best schools in Proposition this, and especially that, like if you go look at the history, I tell Maribel and Claude and people like, if you force me to check the box, then all of a sudden I've binarily broke the whole thing and everything has to be discussed. Everything has to be discussed. So it's very, very, very hard. And I hold it nearest, the number one thing in the world that I hold dear is to not change my filter because I know what it is, which is I don't care. Like in any shape or form, I don't care. Like you can't spell, neither can I. It's powerful. So the answer is sure. You just have to get in front of me. Like I just have to, and to me the access is like, it's blind. Like to me I prefer, because I genuinely believe that Dave got a lower valuation. Like I believe that truth. I believe the market does those things. It's why I went hard at female startups, hard. It's just also about opportunities, right? Like the thing that I'm leaving here with is tripling down on the excitement of what I'm actually doing, and I've intuitively been going there, which is, I just need people to come and see. I would never think of Lamar differently or not differently. I just need Lamar to come to me. Like the reason, like if you listen to the story carefully, we just knocked, of course. It's just taking the at-bats. So to me, I just need to make sure that the system, like it's why we took away any college degree, needs requirement on our, I didn't even know. It came up like 9-10 months ago. They're like, you have, like somebody called me out on social. I'm like, is that true? Like, I don't think about those details. I'm like, is that true? Oh fuck, get rid of it. Like, it's just, it's why I've been spending so much time in sports and hip hop. I want to. I think I can, it's not even that I want to check the box and look good like when you guys come through. It's that I know that I can reach them even more than most people that look like them. And I don't know why. Listen, I really don't know why. I just think I don't even know why. I just think there's something about it. I guess my upbringing, listen, I lived in a studio apartment with 9 family members and split toilet paper. Like my profile looks,
So relates.
yeah, maybe I'm a white dude, but like my upbringing,
I think it's the authenticity.
Yeah, that's
Right.
It's the more
Right.
I think so too.
It's just
You know,
real, man.
it's
Yeah,
funny.
real
You know what? That's so true. 100%.
Keep
That's
it,
it.
yeah.
Especially in
You
this
don't
community.
walk around
By the way,
saying,
actually, especially in
"I'm
every.
some, I made it, my
You know what's a
family
really
had
funny
a
community
wine
for me too that I
business."
haven't gone to yet, but I'm going to soon? Indian Americans. So Edison, New Jersey
Yes.
is the capital of the Indian immigration. So in 5th, 6th, 7th grade, all my best friends were Indian immigrants who were hustlers because they just came to America. They were really raw. Like they were like, I'm gonna steal your lunch when you're not looking. Like they didn't have anything, right? Like, and they were like spoke to me. I'm like, yeah, let's steal everyone's lunch. You know, like I think that's right, and I think it goes both ways, right? Like but I think for me, I can make a far bigger impact by suffocating out excuses to a subculture, normally predominantly male, predominantly with chips on their shoulder, which is the biggest piece of medicine they need. Because what everybody in this room did was they did not dwell. There's no fucking way you're in this room if you dwelled.
I think also too, like the fact that you have this platform, you're preaching this, if you could also talk to the people that are your influencers, encourage them to also speak that same narrative and use
You
their
mean them
platforms,
themselves?
like the other entertainers as well.
You know
get
what's
them
funny,
also
and you know
speaking
this,
about narrative.
like you have to do it in reverse engineering. I'm not gonna force a kid to do nonprofit work. Like, you're right, I'm looking at them, like, as you know, and again, this is what you know deeply, it's so interesting, Russian Jewish immigrants do have such a parallel to African Americans in the US. It was real rough, like, post World War II, basically, millions of people died, and if you stayed alive, you were like, it's the Jews' fault, because the Nazis wouldn't have come here. It was real rough, right? What happens is you can call it selling out, you can call it whatever you want. It's like, what happens when they first taste platform is they're trying to go the other way. Like they're so worried about like, fuck, let me just it's interesting. I know it. I hang out with them. I see it. Like so that's why I don't like judging. Like I never think just because you look the part that you have some sort of feelings towards anything.
Yep.
Like I just think that's lazy. Like we have it here. Like one kid wants another kid to care about things that the kid doesn't care about as much, but like he thinks he should because his background's the same. Like, you can't force it. But which is honestly, I'll tell you, which is why I'm really fucked with this in my head out of excitement. Which is like, fuck, I don't even need Kyle. I don't need 21 Savage. They're listening to me. They've given me, like you said in an email, they've given me the card. They've given me the ability to talk to them, and I'm gonna run with it. Because if they're listening to me, I don't give a shit. Like, by the way, I prefer to do it through other people, then I don't have to take the fucking negatives that come along with it.
Right.
But because I broke through, I'm gonna run through it.
Yeah, that's fair. And it's like you said, the authenticity, and I didn't catch the session you did with Eric Thomas. It was a good friend of mine, and I think that's why he's attracted the success that he also has, from a raw, authentic standpoint. So what's your thoughts on like ET's background and like what he's doing now? Because I feel like it's similar, right? Squeezing out the excuses. It's putting
I like
you on
ET.
the spot.
Intuitively, I like ET. I'm very scared to put anybody on who's a personal brand, because most personal brands are trying to be too selfish. So I don't know what ET's selling. Is what I'm always scared of. But I would tell you after spending, I invited him on the show because I wanted to taste it.
Yeah.
I liked it. I think he's a much better version than a lot of the alternatives, and I think that's right. I think him. I think he breaks through for sure. He motivates for sure.
Yeah, and he has his critics, right? Like in his style and his approach, but like you said, he knows himself when he's gonna be himself.
And by the way, there's so many people I can't break through too. Like we need all sorts of voices, all different like ways. I think the key is to recognize what you're penetrating, and then decide what you want to do with it.
Definitely.
And just to be fair,
Yeah, please.
a lot of our investors are white guys, right? White,
Of course.
like, traditional white men. So just to be fair,
money is.
but yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So it's not like it's not all right. So it's just like
It's really, right? I got a lot of this is
yeah.
really
So
money.
that I just wanted to be fair about that, because I mean, a lot of times people say, man, they're not going to invest, da 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 da. But the whole thing is that if you shine, if you got light and you shine,
It's
light
always gonna-
attracts light, man.
I think life's about alternatives, right? You can sit and dwell that this is that, this is this.
Yeah.
It's always greener somewhere else.
Right.
The reality is like we only get one life, and we got to make our decisions, right?
Yeah.